really living every day and just like soaking it up. And I never let a day slip by.
Hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, founder and podcast producer at MaxPodcasting, and you can email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode lucky number 147, and today's guest is Kelsey Moreira. I tried Kelsey. Kelsey Moreira. She is the founder and fearless leader at Doughp, a crazy, crazy cool edible and bakeable cookie dough company that has super strong mission behind it. She has been featured on Shark Tank. She has been named to the Forbes 30 Under 30. And today we covered the Doughp story, Kelsey's personal story, giving back, inspiring your team, and, of course, the tank of sharks. It is Kelsey, whose name I will never be able to pronounce, but it's not that difficult. It's really just a me thing. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Kelsey Moreira, who I cannot do the Portuguese pronunciation. Kelsey, how do you
You did all right. It's okay. It's Moreira, but Moreira is totally fine. That's how I said it for the first 6 months of knowing my husband.
All right, exactly how you said it the first time. Perfect. But Kelsey, fill in the blank, the founder and fearless leader of Doughp, an awesome story, probably the dopest entrepreneur you'll ever hear from. Really excited to dive into your business and tips and lessons and all that today. What I'd like to do first, though, is rip the Band-Aid off, as the kids say, or as the adults say. You're very open with kind of your sober journey, and your business does some amazing things, giving back and helping out and kind of partnering with businesses that help those who have suffered from challenges in the past, and helping out along the mental health journey as well. What was rock bottom for you?
Yeah, I'm happy to go there. And I think this is such an interesting discussion too, even with trying to put into words like who we're trying to help and how this discussion over the last year around mental health has gotten a bit of a wider tent, right? Like everyone in the world has a responsibility to think about their mental health. That sort of came to life for a lot of people over this past year. But for me, my realization that mental health needed a stronger focus in my life came in 2015 when I made the decision to get sober. I had a solid 10-year journey of drinking, and I was about 8 years into my career at Intel. Started drinking when I was just a freshman in high school. And, through this trying to find myself and trying to fit in, thought that alcohol was the way to do that, and added to that a childhood of high anxiety, high issues with perfectionism, and just always really needing to be on. That the first time I drank, I blacked out, drank till I blacked out. And it was sort of this quiet, this peace. And I got to be just this fun, carefree Kelsey, though there were so many nights that would follow that didn't end so well and didn't represent who I wanted to be as a person. But alcohol had a bit of a hold on me, and it was really hard to come to terms that I needed to stop, because so many things on the surface looked fine. And the more I can share my story, the more I hope it reaches people that can know it's not always the same final look and feel of what a rock bottom is like. I had a great job. I had a relationship of 4 years, had straight A's in school. I ended up with a 3.86 in college, all while really abusing alcohol. And there's just not always that one view. So for me, few years out of college and still working at Intel, I'd started there when I was 16, so kind of catapulted into corporate America at a young age. And the business trips were always kind of the worst for me. It was this nobody there knows that I have a problem with alcohol and could let loose a little bit more. So I was on a trip in Barcelona, and first day there, and started drinking around 10:30 in the morning because I got there a day early. So I was going to relax and go to the pool, and met up with colleagues and went out. And I would come to around 3:30 in the morning, the following morning, in a stranger's apartment. No idea where I was or where my things were, my phone, my purse, nothing. Just decided enough was enough. I literally in that moment was like, I never want to feel like this again. And so in the midst of picking up the pieces of what I thought was the end of my life, really became the beginning of my life and figuring out who Kelsey was and what I wanted to do. But it all started that morning, finding an English speaking AA meeting in Barcelona and saying goodbye to alcohol. And it's been a blessing.
It really has. And really appreciate you being so open with, and it's part of who you are. It's part of who your brand is. And you do so many amazing things to help others who might be find themselves in a similar situation. Can you take us through kind of the emotions you were going through when you kind of reached that point and went, okay, this is it. Like, I don't care. I'm like halfway across the world. Like, I need to get to an AA meeting ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, so many feelings that morning, right? Like, it was a mix of just like despair and disappointment and sadness, and having to make the phone call, to my, now ex-boyfriend, but boyfriend at the time, calling him and having one more chat about, what had happened the night before and picking up those pieces. So just a lot of confusion and, just so disappointed in myself. And I made a call to my Nana, who's like passed away since, but was 21 years sober when she passed. And so her getting the call from me that I finally was ready to stop drinking had been a long time coming. So she was, just very supportive and like optimistic that this is it. Like, you have the power, So I sort of felt these mix of like, I've let everyone down. And then this uplift from my Nana being like, this is just the beginning. Like, you have a chance now, like making this decision and recognizing that there is a problem is like the first step. So get your wee butt to a AA meeting. She's Scottish, was a Scottish woman, sweet little accent. And, just told me I can do it. And so just, though it's hard to believe in the moment when you just feel like it's all crashing down, like that one foot after the other, one day at a time, like those phrases are so real because it's truly just a constant commitment every morning to say my life is better without alcohol and I could accomplish more and do more and love more and be myself more without alcohol every single day, one day at a time.
I'm all for any use of we. So I see why you have such that bond.
Yeah.
It's really an amazing journey. And I think anybody who kind of reaches that point, there's, obviously you're so kind of scared or unsure of what lies ahead in the future when you do decide to go sober. You kind of phrased it as it was like restarting your life or a fresh start to your life. How would you characterize what life for you has been like over the past several years since you made that decision compared to what you thought it would be like?
Yeah. I mean, we're going on an incredible 6 years this year. This September will be my 6-year sober birthday. So it's just crazy how much has happened. But I mean, to characterize the last 6 years versus the past, it's like really living. I feel like at the core, it's like really living every day and just like soaking it up. And I never let a day slip by. And I think alcohol really does that, where it's like, oh, I'll meet you at brunch. And then it's like, we're drinking at brunch and then we're going out and then we're still drinking. And like the day is just a blur. And then you have a headache the next day. And it was all just sort of these light relationships, these light, high level friends that I thought I had during that time. And, a lot of it was just drinking buddies, like just people who like to drink together. So my time since has just been so like fulfilled with, it's not perfect and really hard things have happened, but it's been so much living life and feeling all the feelings and having to go through hard times and good times without that little numbing agent you leaned on. So yeah, it's just been absolutely like an incredible journey in ways to characterize it and in like the output of what's happened. I mean, I went from what I thought would be the rest of my life working in corporate America, like I grew up with this, you go to good college, get a good job and stay there forever until you retire. Like that was the plan. And sobriety really gave me the chance to like realize, what other hobbies I had in life, what else I love to do. And with this idea that like, maybe I could make that my life. I really love desserts. I really love making desserts for people. And what if that could be my whole journey?
That's a great time to get to Doughp. You're spending all this time. I mean, you work for Intel for over 10 years. I mean, it's not like this was just, a year or two out of college that you started working with Intel. This is, a big chunk of time here. Where did cookie dough appear into the mix? When did you start fooling around with cookie dough? Which I think is a question I'd love to ask every guest, but I think for you it makes special sense.
You have so many puns. Into the mixing bowl. When did it come into the mixing bowl?
Nice.
Yes. I love it. Okay. You got to add like the symbols there, like Dutch. Okay. We're done. Moving on. Yes. No, I mean, cookie dough has been a part of my life since I was really young. I have always loved to bake, loved making desserts. My mom would frequently be like, okay, like when you come over this weekend, like we're going to make like any recipe or whatever. And she'd think we'd make like a dinner together or something. I'm like, get the big giant cookie book. We literally had a cookie book called the Big Giant Cookie Book. This is recipe book with like, I don't know, 100 different types of cookies or something. And I just loved it. I mean, I love making cookies, but how versatile they are, that if you've got whatever you have in your kitchen, the base cookie dough, like you can sort of get creative off of it and make different things, much like ice cream. You can make so many different types of ice cream for those that make it. So cookies were always a soft spot, if you will, for me. And I just kind
Nice
of
one.
lost sight of that. Nailed it. We should have a
We're
we should
gonna
pun
get
counter.
an air horn pun counter. Yeah, I'm just scribbling. I don't have any sheets of notebook paper
We're
left.
in a
Thank you.
pun off. It's awesome. Yeah, so it's like I really lost sight of baking and my love for that when I was still in my drinking years. And so when I got sober, getting back in the kitchen was really meditative for me. And like you said, working at Intel, and it's not a light thing. Like it was a pretty heavy job. And I was able to find some time in my early days of sobriety to be baking a bit for other people. So I started a little bakery called Monster Baby Bakery. My nickname as a kid was Monster Baby for being such a messy eater. I thought it was the perfect name for my bakery because I make a mess while I bake. And if it's the messier my kitchen gets, the better I know the recipe is going to turn out. I had a blast, this idea of like making cakes and cupcakes and cookies for people's events and just more like friends and coworkers and colleagues. I had a small like e-commerce version of the site up. If my Nana, who I spoke about earlier, would order stuff to Hideaway, Texas, out in East Texas, getting her treats to share with her friends and show off what her granddaughter had made. But I was really just a small kind of first step into like, what would it be like to create my own brand and like make a logo and make a website and, all those little components. And I just loved it. I remember just being like, wow, the time is flying, like, cause I'm having so much fun doing it and very high labor. The economics of this were like really intense. Trying to make a cake that took me 8 hours and sell it for $60 was like, something's not adding up here, but like I'm having a blast. So I definitely had it as kind of a nights and weekends hobby. But I was moved down to San Francisco for a new job inside of Intel and kind of put the bakery on the side, just thinking there's no way I can make it with like world renowned pastry chefs in San Francisco. So I'll just, dive back into Intel. I loved what I was doing, working on some philanthropic efforts inside the company and getting a glimpse for like how this company that makes a ton of money could also be doing a bunch of great things for the world. But the bakery was just sort of on the side. So continued rather to bake for myself, still wanting to do recipes in my free time on the weekend. And occasionally, friends were having a potluck or something. I was always the designated dessert maker. So in SF, I'd been venturing into a part-time vegan lifestyle. And this is really where Doughp comes into the picture because I was very part-time in so that I loved butter and would not let it go for the life of me, but I wasn't using any eggs. Doughp is exactly that, this like butter-filled decadent cookie dough recipe, but made eggless. So you can dig in raw. And I was saving like a bowl of cookie dough to snack on through the week and then baking, 6 cookies at the time. So it was this nice balance of like eat it or heat it, have it as you want. And I thought this could be my thing. Like this is unique. And like, why can't I get this out with my friends? In sobriety, I'm always looking for like some new place to try, like dessert shops that were opening or tea places or on a hunt for a kombucha bar back in the day. I thought that would be so cool. So I just thought what a neat thing for like a dessert concept to be able to do a cookie dough bar. And I don't know, let's test it. Doughp became a, passion project nights and weekends from around February of 2017 until I launched on April 20th, 2017. First day of my sabbatical with Intel. So I was going to get 10 weeks to see if people really liked cookie dough like I do.
That's perfect timing for it. Where was the opening that gave you an opportunity to turn this thing to its first brick and mortar location?
Yeah. So my initial testing with the company and, whenever new entrepreneurs are coming to me with an idea and they're like, I want to start this thing, how should I do it? It's always like test, 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 the market fit is like really my best advice. I didn't build a business plan. I don't recommend that you shouldn't. I know it can be helpful for some, but I didn't spend the time to do all those other components. I really just wanted to know, do people like this product? And like, what's the lowest cost way that I can get out there and sell it and see if people, one, what their feedback is on how it tastes, and two, are they willing to pay the price I'm trying to charge for it? And three, is the form factor I'm serving it in unique or interesting enough for them to want to share it on social? That was kind of another big marker for me to see how share worthy what I was creating was. So I started with this sort of like catering pop-up concept. I got a food cart built for $500, and the first day was at Dolores Park. Had 100 pounds of cookie dough I had made over at a commercial kitchen in Oakland and carted on a wagon back on the BART to San Francisco.
Oh my God.
And then set up that cart, and we sold out in 3 hours. And so it was like big validation of like, okay, people really like this. What's the next step? And so baby steps from there were really getting into a food park. 2 weeks later, got into this food park at Spark Social, where I was setting up sort of a tent and table kind of concept. And that got to be 7 days a week. Opened up a small kiosk. This is really where like Doughp for Hope will end up coming into the story with our work around mental health and addiction recovery. It was my 2-year sobriety anniversary that we had a grand opening for my first sort of physical. It can't call it a storefront. It was a kiosk in a food hall, but it was mine and it was beautiful and it was like 10 by 10. And I was just so happy to have a physical space. That 2-year sobriety anniversary, we said on the invite, if you come up and say it's Doughp to be sober at checkout, you'll get 20% off. And really kicked off my realization that so many more people out there wanted to have a conversation about sobriety and about mental health, and that I wasn't the only one going through this. And maybe I could use this company to help others not feel so alone. Yeah. And then that led up to Pier 39. That's really our first big store, was Pier 39 reaching out saying they had a space that came available and they really loved our concept, thought we'd be great on the pier. I almost died. I had to like mute the phone because I was screaming. It was like, I grew up going to Pier 39. So the idea that they wanted me to open my cookie dough company on the pier, I couldn't believe it. And I thought, what a great way to see thousands and thousands of faces. You know, we were serving 20,000 new customers each month, or thereabouts. Was 98% new customers a month at the pier. So yeah, it was just really wild to get that kind of exposure so early in the company.
Yeah, that's a hell of a place for your first official location.
Yeah.
When you look at your story, it's baby steps after baby steps. I would say monster baby steps after monster baby steps.
Oh, the pun counter just went off.
Yeah, we have several different pun counters. So we have a whole cookie dough mix of it. But you can feel kind of your energy at every point along the journey of like, okay, well, let's just kind of validate it. And then, all right, well, what if we got an actual kiosk? And then bigger, next thing you know, Pier 39's calling you. I know it wasn't overnight like that, but it's really inspiring to hear that. On the product side, when you're figuring out the mixes and what the actual recipe entails, what did that look like, creating that side of things?
Solid 3 hours in my kitchen before a bonfire with my friends at Ocean Beach. I was like, the first, 4 flavors we were going to release for Doughp, I made that afternoon. Doughp is really a cookie recipe I had been using for a long time. For that last year and a half, pretty much relied on this chocolate chip cookie recipe that I loved, and being able to adjust from that base to the different flavors. I just got to kind of think like, what would be fun flavors? I think for our launch day, we had white chocolate chip and cranberry, like dried cranberry in one. The classic chocolate chip, which we still have today, s'mores flavor, and then #vegan life. That was like a vegan chocolate chip cookie dough. So I was really quick and scrappy. And, some people spend years and hundreds of thousands, if not, $1 million on R&D. And though there are some like really groundbreaking scientific, like push the edge foods that need to do that, coming up with really awesome cookie dough flavors just didn't need to like slave over that side, because I had a really great recipe. So I found something that just tastes amazing and was, creative, I guess, enough as time has gone on to keep thinking like, what could be the next push the envelope flavor to do, and keep exciting our customers with like new seasonal releases or, timely drops around holidays and whatnot that make it really fun. And yeah, I haven't had to reformulate the original Doughp recipe. We still use it to this day. We had a minor tweak of I think like the salt. When we scaled up to 150-pound batches, things changed a little bit on the salt, but nothing else major, which is really a blessing. I know it can be such a costly component for companies, but we wanted to stay nimble and keep moving fast.
Yeah, you know how salt gets. People get salty. I will stop any second now. No.
We actually had a flavor called feeling salty, so you're on point. That's okay.
Yeah, that's just how well I've done my research. But when I look at your company, there's a couple different things that I think are kind of infused into you and your company from the beginning. One of them, which I think is such a cool differentiator, is like you make your cookie dough, your Doughp cookie dough, to be eaten raw or turned into actual cookies, which is awesome because people like growing up, anybody who snacked on some cookie dough growing up, you kind of heard over time that you weren't supposed to have, kind of like the traditional cookie dough, you weren't supposed to do too much of it that way. but people kind of snuck it anyway. But I had never heard of a company that like full blown is like, hey, this is part like, this is a big part of it. Like you can have it raw if you want. But of course it turns into amazing cookies as well. Where was the insight that you're like, we should keep marketing it and saying, hey, you guys can eat this any way you want it. It's going to be fantastic.
That was the biggest pet peeve for me as the cookie dough craze sort of took off in like late 2017, 2018, where competitors started coming into the space making it, just edible, eat it, don't bake it, and almost like cookie dough frosting starting to lead the recipe with sugar instead of flour. I'm like, are you even making cookie dough anymore? It's like it's almost like they tried to turn it into this confection of a dessert, like it's a new candy concept almost to have a cookie dough flavored blah. It really lost like the essence of it. So for me, I mean, it
Which
just,
I have to say, I think a cookie dough flavored blah would be pretty damn good.
yeah, who knows? Like, I suppose a more accurate terms, like a cookie dough frosting is like really what it ended up kind of coming out like, where it wasn't even really the same consistency. It's like spreadable like frosting versus like cookie dough, which like, you grab a spoon, but it's like it's got some more hold and life to it because you're not just packing it with sugar. Dope also only uses brown sugar and no white sugar. So it tends to be with our ratios and everything, just a bit less sweet than how intensely sweet some of these others have come out with. So this like, homemade, but without eggs. And it really is exactly that. It was a recipe I was making for a long time with eggs. And in this sort of venture into part-time veganism, highly recommend. I was using an egg substitute and still using the butter. So I had something that was like truly still ready to be baked, but without eggs and able to, heat treat the flour. It was the last component to make it safe, but didn't alter the texture or taste of the product. So yeah, we got something pretty great. It's been a big, big differentiator for us.
One of the biggest. You alluded to it before, but another part that's so big for your business is giving back. Can you shed some light on what Dope for Hope is?
Yeah, so Dope for Hope is our company wide initiative, really like our reason for being, trying to reduce stigmas around mental health and addiction recovery. And like I said, this idea that what I had gone through is not unique to me, wasn't and still isn't. So many people are at every stage of what my journey was and of all the other shades of what troubles with substance use disorders or other mental health, life challenges can throw at you. And it felt like a conversation that needed to be had on a louder stage because I did feel quite alone. Like, my gosh, am I the only one that can't get it together? I'm 24, about to be 25, and all of this is still happening, years and years of trying to make it work, of trying to find the balance, of trying to find a way to keep drinking in my life and stay with it. And I just thought, I'm broken, like there's something wrong with me. And I started Dope for Hope to really try and help people know that there's nothing wrong with you. And there's a bunch of us out here who just can't make it work with alcohol or whatever substance it is, enter substance here, wasn't adding value to our life. And we were so awesome that we took the chance to say, this isn't working for me. I'm going to make a change instead of sitting with it. So all of this comes to life through Dope and all of our communication messaging, but it's also really backed up financially by our donation component. So a portion of every purchase is donated to a nonprofit that supports these issues. And for 2021, that's the She Recovers Foundation. They are for women that are inner seeking recovery. And again, from like life challenges, mental health troubles, and substance use disorders, eating disorders, and others. So really just across the board, this community to come together and say, you're not alone and I'm here to help. It's awesome. And it's really nice to know that yes, we make cookie dough, but you can make it in your home. Cookie dough is a commodity. And what's really different is that we have the power to make a change in the world and do something positive. So we have, the donation component of Dope for Hope is kind of the leading front there. And then the other big piece is the mental health side inside our company and outside. So we do a lot of education for our customers and for other employers as well, trying to help them bring this to life inside their companies like we do at Dope. So really robust mental health policy for our staff and covering mental health subsidies, supporting if they want a therapy session or a float spa or a massage, whatever you need for some self-care. There's support on that front financially. Mental health days, if you need the day off, have it. You don't have to call and cough and pretend to be sick. We wanted really to open that door and let people say like, I'm having an anxiety attack today. Like I really can't come in, instead of this traditional relationship where employees feel this need to just be all on and all okay all the time, or else they risk losing their job. And that's just not realistic. 1 in 5 Americans are living with mental illness in America, and it's really important that we represent all of them, and the 4 of those 5 that some of which might be struggling and haven't reached out. Who knows how accurate these stats really are due to the stigma and difficulty of those wanting to access care and not following through.
It's really special. And you mentioned like the fake cough. You don't have to do the Ferris Bueller contraption in bed, sleeping in bed, staying away thing. But it's awesome how it's such a big part of your company and your mission. What kind of reaction and feedback do you hear from customers and employees that, so much of what you're doing does give back?
Yeah, it's one of like the beautiful things. Sometimes I get the question of like, what keeps you going like through the hard days? And I have like a folder of all the screenshots from some customers who have written in about how much what we're doing means to them. And, one poignant example that has always really moved me was when I aired on Shark Tank. I got a message from a woman who had just lost her son to the disease of addiction in February. So this was like 3 months before the episode aired. And she said, for some reason, the only show I can bring myself to watch is Shark Tank. And seeing you on there last night, I shared about my sobriety on the show and, felt like a message from my son. What a special thing, what a special thing to get to feel like I made a grieving mother even like a little bit warmer one night, feeling like someone out here is fighting for what couldn't save her son, and that hopefully what we're doing can save others and not have the same fate continue to happen at the rate it is. And yeah, it's just those individual moments of like, if I could just change one life. We had some people reach out over the years saying, I want to get sober. Where should I start? Just to be a resource, to be a beacon, to say, come on in. Like, yeah, we've got resources for you. What an awesome decision to be thinking about. Here's a place you can get started. And I just love it. It's really those micro things of even if you can just change one life, like that's what it's all about. But I think it's a different positioning for a company to really be so focused on something like this and know that the customers who resonate with it, the customers whose lives we touch or who have been touched by these issues, like that's a different type of consumer loyalty that you can't fake.
And speaking of positioning, I mean, you have the positioning from the product standpoint, you have the positioning from the mission standpoint, mission positioning, that rolls off the tongue there. Shark Tank, that's another hell of a way to position your brand, to get your brand out there. So many entrepreneurs would love to be on Shark Tank one day. What you hear about it is even if you don't come away with a deal, it can still do amazing things for your business. When you think back to your experience on Shark Tank, what was kind of the reaction you saw afterwards, even though you didn't get the deal?
Yeah, Shark Tank, it's like a tremendous trampoline, to be able to get on and get in front of so many people, not only the night that it airs, but when it re-airs. It re-airs every month and a half or so for us. And so we get an extra spike of all these new people come into the site to check out if we're still around, where we're at, what we're doing, and in some ways enter our remarketing funnel so we can try and close a sale and get them to order from us online.
Oh, you
which
got
wasn't
me.
the
I think I'm
yeah.
in it.
Which wasn't the focus of my pitch. I was really focused on our brick and mortar storefronts. So I can only imagine, and I give this advice to other entrepreneurs thinking of going on the show, even if e-commerce isn't your main source of business, like try and get it in the pitch, try and get it in there. We did have e-commerce, but we were so focused on the brick and mortar side and we were raising funds to open the store in Vegas, that I really didn't harp much on like, hey, you can get cookie dough delivered straight to your door. And now post pandemic, D2C is our entire world. We more than doubled our sales in 2020, all thanks to our online business, and focusing there. Yeah, I just think it would have been even more impactful if I had been so focused on that. But even without, just awesome to have this pickup of new people, every month and a half, it's another like 5,000 people in an hour that drop on the site wherever they're watching it. So we have nice little spikes that happen. We're like, oh, Shark Tank's on again. So that was great. And after it aired, I mean, I was so afraid to check Twitter, to be perfectly honest. I'm like, you're one eye open reading stuff because you're just worried someone's going to say something mean, but people were incredibly nice. Like, this is the best pitch I've ever seen. Like, how did she not get a deal? People were just irate that they were upset that it was cookie dough. Like, it was sweet for you, their commentary from the Sharks was that it was sweet. And people are like, it's cookie dough. Like, of course, it's a dessert. It should be sweet. So
Right.
it was nice to kind of have like the internet backing me instead of getting like completely trolled. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, I had a crazy haircut at the time. Like, are people going to be making fun of my haircut? Had this like edgy undercut, which could have gone either way. I don't know.
Yeah, no, awesome haircut. I'll give it to you. What was the thing about your Shark Tank experience that surprised you the most?
I think how emotional I was when I left. I ended up taking a mental health day myself the next day that I really just needed to reset. It's a very like psychologically challenging experience. Like you have months and months of the audition process leading up to this to even hope that you get selected. You get chosen to film and you're not promised to air. And then you go on and you don't get a deal and it's like my god, all this might be for naught. I might not even air. And then I had to wait from September till May to know that it was going to air. Mine was one of the last episodes of the season.
Oh my God.
Wow, it was just really intense on my anxiety and just overall mental well-being. And the moment that it ended, and I had to be like, I think I said something like, I wish I was hugging you guys right now, but just thanks so much for the experience. And, all kind of like still bright and bubbly and waved. And I said, have a dope day or something, clicked my heels. And then as soon as I turned down that hallway, I was just like overtaken with emotion and hysterically crying, like hyperventilating. And they wouldn't get the camera out of my face. The camera guys just probably told to film all of it no matter what. And I'm trying to hide behind the producer to like get away. And it was a whole thing. I was really overwhelmed with the emotion of like, wow, I did great. I knew my numbers. I did my pitch. I nailed everything. I knew what I wanted. I was so confident, but it didn't end the way I thought. Like I didn't expect the conversation to be that like cookie dough is not healthy for you or, that it's not a better for you product or something. So I was just so taken aback. Yeah, it was kind of this emotional whirlwind that I just ended in tears. But thank you to the ABC editors. If you ever listen to this, you guys didn't
That's
show it.
actually the vast majority of our listeners are ABC editors. It's funny you stumbled
Nice.
upon. Yeah.
You never know. You never know. I've mentioned this before, so I always want to thank them if they do hear it. That yeah, they really like did me a solid and just like left it as this awesome presentation and passion. And I was very heartfelt and everything, but they didn't show those clips of me sobbing because I was like mortified, the next day thinking like having to come to terms that like, okay, look, we talk about mental health. We're going to need to have like some positioning around that it's okay to feel your feelings and that I'm all in this. This is my life. It hurts when someone says they don't want your life. They don't want a part of what you've built.
It certainly sounds like it lives up to the name. I mean, those sharks are sharks. I can't even imagine like sitting there for months not knowing if it's even going to air after like spending so much time preparing for it. And then, wow. So that's amazing and a phenomenal result. And I mean, you must feel like Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, like every time Seinfeld re-airs, it's just you get some sort of royalties or some sort of PR, we'll call them PR royalties
Yeah.
every time it's on. So that's pretty cool. If your podcast energy is experiencing shrinkage, I am here to help. If you are facing the brutal reality of just how long it takes to have your own podcast, to keep going with your own podcast, email me at max@maxpodcasting.com. I will take lots and lots of that off your plate so you can focus on doing the things you truly, truly love. Email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. Now, let's pivot, talk pivoting, and perhaps pivot again as we get back to Kelsey. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's get to inspiration and creativity. You alluded to the fact that you had a pretty big pivot. Shout out my girlfriend, Dana, who's a huge Friends fan. So any pivot reference, there you go, Dana. But you had a pretty big pivot from initially thinking this was going to be mainly a brick and mortar business to D2C and mainly online business. That itself takes tons of creativity. That's a whole endeavor in itself and a big focus from you and the team over the past year especially. What was the most challenging part of that transition?
Yeah, I mean, we had so many learnings that did help it. I think about things like having the brick and mortar. We knew the questions that customers ask most frequently. We knew the flavors that were most popular. Let's kit them together. Let's put this information in the forefront. And that kind of guidance is certainly a leg up to anybody who's got a brick and mortar that wants to go online. Like you have real hard in-person customer understanding. You really get how people think about your product, how they want to enjoy it and whatnot. So we had a lot of help there. I think the biggest challenge and like learning curve was just fulfillment, knowing what you don't know. And like it's really hard to make the right decisions. There's just not a ton of information out there. My husband, who's co-CEO with me at Doughp, running operations and finance side of the house more so, is he really dove into this and sees what a need it is. So he's working on a consulting course to help other entrepreneurs kind of navigate these waters and know how to scale a direct to consumer business, because there was just a lot of trial by fire, some of which ended very painfully and with pretty significant losses in some areas that we were lucky enough to be able to bounce back from and be nimble enough to make the change when something's not working, et cetera. But just a huge cost when you pay so much to acquire each customer. If you have something go wrong in fulfillment, your costs are just like amplifying through the roof, because now you've lost the potential to get that second purchase, and you've tarnished the relationship. There's only one, so many of them who will reach out, and two, even the ones who reach out, that you do everything you can to make it right, that will purchase again. It's just not going to be a foolproof system to get all those people back in the same rate you would have should there have been no problem. So we learned a ton in this expansion of co-packing world and fulfillment centers, and yeah, just a lot of great things to try and pass along to other entrepreneurs that can like learn from these mistakes and try to avoid them, to have the good setup like we do today.
Yeah, those are like the good growing pains to have. Like it's a very tough and intense challenge, but it's good that you're getting so much business that like you need to work out these kinks and figure them out fast.
Right. Like we went from like 30 boxes a month in November of 19 to 3,000 boxes a week in April of 2020.
Oh
So
my
it was
God.
like,
Jeez.
it went from, packing a few boxes every week in our storefront to like graveyard shifts every night when the store would close until I guess like 8:30 in the morning the next morning, when then USPS was going to be there at 9 a.m. Like we had literally graveyards every night of the week, trying to produce, pack, and ship, and somehow freeze all that dough before we packed it out to ship. So in our little freezer, our ice cream freezer in the store. So it was a real glow up. Add to that the pandemic hit, so we lost our storefront and had 12 hours notice to find another facility that would let us use their kitchen to continue packing and shipping, because the customers' orders were only increasing because of the shutdowns, whereas like we were now losing the facility that we were packing in. So we had like a U-Haul the next morning, pulled up to the store, loaded everything in, and found a local donut shop that was willing to let us take over their retail location to start producing and shipping from. So it was just a testament to like, when it's your business and you believe in it wholeheartedly, like you just will do anything. You will literally do anything. You will forego sleep for multiple days on end to just make it happen, to make sure that every customer can get what they need, and that you continue to find a facility to produce in and grow from there. So yeah, it was a good problem to have, as you said, but wow, I'm scarred.
I love this. It's like the sweet tooth companies are partnering together between the cookie dough companies and donut shops, and just
Yeah.
help got each other's back from a supply standpoint.
Yeah, that was amazing. Shout out to Carl's Donuts if anyone's ever in Vegas. Great donuts, great people, family business. They're awesome.
Shout out Carl from Shameless and Carl's Donuts. You mentioned some crazy, some would say wild business growth of your business. How much the demand increased and how much the supply needed to increase fast as you scaled it online and beyond. I don't even know what the beyond is, but I'm sure you did. How did you inspire your team to start thinking bigger and acting bigger, saying, okay, we're not just kind of like a one or two shop place anymore. Like we have customers all over that are ordering a lot. Even though we're not seeing them in person, this is kind of how the business is, and it's going to keep growing like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so the team at the time, I mean, the management team was really Iz and I. We had a general manager for the store, but the management team, and coming to this decision of like, we need to pull back on the kind of the small wholesale we were doing, pull back on the catering we were doing. Let's make the brick and mortar and e-commerce our two big channels. We really need to get e-commerce to be, and I think we said at the time, like maybe we can get it to 20% of the revenue of the stores. Had no idea it would completely, flip flop and be now 100%. But that was really Iz and I kind of sitting down and, his hard look at like the economics of things and what had the most potential for scale. And, this is November of 19. So it just couldn't have been better timing, I think, for the rest of the team and store staff and everyone that was helping us fulfill in those graveyard shifts. It was exciting to them to see the orders keep coming through. Iggy, who's still with us today, was making all of the dough during that time. And I remember each week seeing her and she'd be like, can you believe, it was like 400 pounds this week that we shipped out. And then the next week's like, oh my God, it was 1,200 pounds that we shipped out this week. It just kept being like bigger and bigger numbers, where soon enough, it couldn't be Iggy that was just making all the dough. Now she's our recipe developer, and we love still having her in the team. It's funny how things have morphed and how excited we were to be doing, yeah, even like 400 pounds back then.
I think you have the coolest team ever between a monster baby, Iz, and Iggy. You have that could be like a whole like Pixar franchise or something.
To sound like the names of Monsters Inc. That's true. Iggy's real name is even Kelsey. So she just happens to go by Iggy, which is the funniest thing. I've never hired another Kelsey just by chance, except for her. And she's like, no, I actually don't go by Kelsey. So that made things easy.
We'll start calling you Iggy as well, not to confuse anyone.
Nice.
Let's get to a fan favorite segment called Iggy's Shout Out. No, just kidding.
Stop.
Called the Wild Business Shout Out of the Week.
The Wild Business Shout Out of the Week!
Wild Business Shout of the Week. This is where we talk about a brand, a creative marketing campaign, something that's really, really cool, caught your attention. And Recess. When I hear Recess, I think Recess Schools Out, the show from growing up. But
Loved it. Nostalgic.
exactly. I'm here for the nostalgia. Recess, the brand. What is it that stands out to you about them?
Yeah, I mean, so many things. Shout out to the branding team that supported Recess. I believe it's a marketing agency called Doughp that did their latest kind of like refresh. Just love it. Very like ethereal, fun, funky. Their social is incredible if you follow them on Instagram. Very relatable, timely stuff. They had like a Recess can leaving a GameStop with like bags, when the GameStop thing was going crazy. So
Oh my God.
they do it. Their graphic design team is just awesome at integrating, their product into the memes and being quick and nimble. Cause that's the thing about memes and being timely with communication is like, you got to be on top of it and flexible enough to pump out a graphic while it's happening, not like a week later. Cause people can sniff that out and are like, oh, this is like late to the party, or, that was last week. So they do a really great job on that front. But moreover, I'd ordered their product. It's kind of these different flavored waters and fun, funky flavors. Love it. I like to see kind of what other D2C brands are doing in their shipment kind of boxing and the whole experience itself. So really enjoy it. Great, like personable, a friend is talking to you concept in their email marketing, which is a huge thing for Doughp. I've always, I used to run the emails myself where it really was me just talking to you, and then always try to keep that through in Doughp's voice, that it's like a friend talking to you and a bit of like the wit and humor wherever we can. I had purchased and then I didn't purchase again. And I guess a number of months later, I forget exactly how long, I get this email from them that was like, some kind of comedic line about $10, if we could get you $10 for your thoughts kind of thing. I was like, what a great idea. We've been having this struggle with Doughp about trying to figure out what the reason is for lapsed customers. If someone doesn't purchase our window, it's like, if it's not within 60 days, it's pretty much not happening. I think we get about 80% of our second purchases happening within 60 days of that first. So if it's past that timeline, it's likely not going to happen. And they had a survey, take this survey to get this $10 off. And I thought, what a brilliant idea. So I went through their survey, like gave them my feedback on why I hadn't reordered, and thought immediately like, gosh, this would just be so helpful to get into the customer's brain. And, we've done a number of different, like a package design survey. We'll let our customers in on some different parts of the process. If you ordered Doughp drops, you got a survey on what you thought of our new product, like these snackable and bakeable bites of cookie dough. It's really great to just kind of pick their brain and try and get their feedback. So we launched a lapsed customer survey for after 60 days have passed, and sent out a survey. I think its subject line is like, here's a $10 bribe or something like that. So
I love it.
Trying to, in a funny way, be like, hey, like things were going so well, and then it's not happening anymore between us. Was it us? Did we do something kind of thing? So played around with it and got a great response. We ended up getting like 400 responses in the first send out of it. So a nice sample size for us to see what was the reason behind it, and some really clear, just glowing things like free shipping or a lower price. 100% of the respondents said one or both of those as a reason that would make them come back to purchase again. So we launched free shipping on Friday. Shout out to anyone who wants to go to doughp.com. We made it happen. We really needed to see if that could move the needle on repeat purchases and overall conversion rate on the site for even first time folks coming. We have an incredibly high add to cart rate. And so it's like, and reach checkout still holding, I think, about 80% of add to carts. So the drop off there from how many reach checkout to convert, what else do they have except shipping? So this lapsed customer thing was just super on point. Loved what I saw from Recess, applied it to Doughp, and we got some really great insights that are moving the needle for us.
That's that meme mindset. You're taking that kind of quick and nimble approach of having to get something out there quick and applying it, this time from your insights in the surveys. All right, let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
Born ready. Hit me.
Born ready. All right. Consider
Was
yourself
that
hit.
the most enthusiastic start or?
That
Okay.
was the most, the most enthusiastic start. Yes. Let's get wild. Pun counter is off the charts. Pun tracker. What is your personal favorite flavor of Doughp cookie dough?
Not gonna lie, it's out right now and it's beast mode brownie. It is so stinking good. It has been a lot of time since I finished a whole pint of cookie dough. I just, I like to try the different flavors. I like to have a bit of each. I'll eat a couple spoonfuls of each flavor at a time, but I crushed it. I housed the whole pint in like a couple of days. So really, really highly recommend beast mode brownie.
Beast mode brownie. I love the alliteration as well. So that this is, oh my God. I think I'm going to apply for a job next. When you do consume your own Doughp cookie dough, do you find yourself having it raw or baking cookies more often?
I find myself half baking it in the microwave. And this is the ultimate pro tip. Either straight in the pint, I'll drop the pint in the microwave with the lid off for like 15 seconds. Or if I just want to scoop some out into a bowl and then 10, 12 seconds and then add some ice cream. Oh my God. So good. It's like a gooey, half baked sundae.
Oh my God. Mouth is watering. The microwave is on in the background. It's probably going to start beeping soon. But all right. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh.
Which you did mention a pet peeve earlier, but I completely forget what it is. So
Funny.
I guess joke's on me.
There's like little things probably like the tapping. Like I'm one of those, like I have a really weird connection with noise. And if there's a repetitive noise happening in a room, something's clicking or someone's like, clicking their pen or tapping their foot or something. It's like I'm like on the ceiling until I figure out where it's coming from. I can like feel my anxiety rising. I'm leaving. Yeah, it's pretty intense. But
Wasn't me. And then what's a weird talent you have? Something that you're really good at, but it doesn't really have any impact on your business. It's just like, hey, look what I can do type thing.
I can rap Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby pretty much front to back. And there may or may not be a choreographed dance, but we're on podcast, so you'll never know.
Awesome.
We'll skip it for now. We'll leave the illusion, the mystere around it.
Yeah.
There's probably some video of me doing it online.
That's amazing. Well, Kelsey, baby, thank you so much for. I think that's the corniest one yet.
Thank you. Oh, Ice Ice Baby. Wow. Yeah. It was rough. That should get a no sound, like where the buzzer goes off. That one's like failed. I thought you were trying to say Monster Baby Bakery. I was like, wait, what?
No, we'll get like the swear words from SpongeBob with like the boat horn and like the different dolphin noises and stuff. We'll get that.
That's what we need.
No, but Kelsey, aka Iggy, now aka Kelsey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, sharing your story, just being amazing and open and awesome and inspiring about what you do and what you and the awesome team does at Doughp. Where is the best place for people to connect with you personally and then to try out some Doughp?
Yeah, Doughp.com is like number one spot. It's DOUGHP for anybody who's been listening this whole time and is like, what the hell are they talking about with Doughp? Or you've been trying to Google it spelled normal. It's like dough with a P on the end. So Doughp.com. We're at Doughp on Instagram and Facebook. And we are at Eat Doughp on Twitter and TikTok. TikTok's been super fun. We just had a viral video hit like 1.9 million. So please go watch it and make it go hit 2. But it's been awesome. So connect with us there. And I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you find Kelsey Moreira on LinkedIn, Moreira, if you're going crazy, spelled the same way, Moreira. Yeah, I'm always kind of sharing insights and learnings of what's going on with Doughp on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Last thing, Kelsey M, just because I cannot pronounce it, but what is a final thoughts you have? It could be a quote, a line, kind of words to live by, whatever you want. Take us home here.
Sure. I mean, words to live by. I feel like the biggest thing that's helped me make it where I am today with Doughp and will help us propel to the next stage of Doughp is really continuing as if success is inevitable. Every single stage of Doughp, I just thought, I'm going to do this. It's going to be freaking awesome. I'm going to find a way. And though there's so many challenges and hurdles and obstacles that come your way, you just find a new path forward. So I just really, to anybody out there trying to start a business or grow a business or make it through this tough patch, like keep going. Put your nose to the grindstone and just really believe in your heart of hearts, like you're going to find a way. There's no option where this doesn't work out, and somehow it will work out.
the most dope. Thank you so much, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me. Have a dope day. Oh, got the last one in. Pun counter. Bow, 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 bow. Okay, sorry. That was a better horn.
Puns that will bring a tear to your eye. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for sharing your amazing, amazing, amazing story, for all the awesome things you do. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite app and tell a friend about the podcast. You can also find us on Good Pods, where you can find some, yes, other good podcasts out there. And for any help with podcast production, you can learn more at MaxPodcasting.com. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!